Hey guys, Tarke here, and this is going to be a very long video. I'm also going to do a shorter one later. There's been a lot of changes with Delve, and I haven't done many longer kind of videos, and I currently have Uber and Karv in my chat right now. So we're going to read through Karv's point of view, and if you know me, I very much respect Karv's point of view on how they should be changing the Delve system. I'm going to read some comments. I haven't read any of this yet, so this is completely off the dome, and then we'll do like a shorter TLDR later. So, the new changes to mines hurts hardcore Delve ladder competition. Before we get into it, just having read that title, if a system doesn't affect you, that doesn't mean the system doesn't exist. So if someone's going to say, well, I don't care, well, then that doesn't make Karv's point no longer valid just because you don't care. You might disagree on a fundamental level, and what Karv wants might not be what's good for everyone, but I just want to say that before we get into it. Okay. I'm not sure if the title is the greatest for this post. Probably not. But it was the best I came up with. This won't just be a post crying about why it's bad, as it's better than what we have right now overall for the game. Sure, I agree. But to point out the issues this new change is aiming to improve, and why and how it could be done in a different way that reaches the same goal. I agree, I feel like the extreme we're going to is very extreme, and if you don't know, they're making all delves account-wide. You'll just have one delve for your own account. Okay, note that I'm not going deep into the difference of SSF/trade, but rather thinking about it from the point of view where a player can do it themselves. Okay, issue 1. Individual delve progress discourages making new builds. If you want to also test the strength of the character in delves, catch-up system is needed badly. I agree. I feel like catch-up mechanics is something which this league's desperately wanted, and GGG has gone the extreme. So if you guys remember back to the start, when we, people were like, why aren't the upgrades account-wide? I said I would rather they tried a catch-up system, and if that wasn't enough, then make them account-wide rather than going straight account-wide. And I feel like this is the same thing, where it's like, we want a catch-up system rather than having a catch-up system, they're just going account-wide again. Okay. Starting at depth 73 when you have a character potentially rated to depth 400 and lower is a big no when you think about making that character. Especially when you have already proven that you can do those depths on a different character. You as a player are able to do them, so starting from depth 73 is basically forcing you to just invest a very high amount of time to get there again. While the sulfite gains are getting better, remains to be seen how good they are in practice, that's true, something needs to be done. So we're getting league-wide delve progress all the way to the lowest depths you're already at. I agree with that. A few systems that I kind of liked the idea of was maybe have it so that once you've unlocked a certain like delve, then previous delves cost slightly less. You'd have to adjust sulfite costs across the board to like accommodate this. So you'd have to make all sulfite costs slightly higher, but then once you've unlocked it, they become like cheaper. That could be one system, or having like a checkpoint kind of system. So instead of being completely account bound, let's say you unlock 400, well then you can start at 300 or 200 on your next character. But yeah. Issue 2. Not being able to do hard encounters/bosses with a different character. Since the mines are character-based, in order to do a boss or specific encounter with a character, it is that specific character that has to encounter it in the delves. This can be devastating if you get bad RNG in the delve on different characters, but have found it on the character that can't do it for them. Yep, I agree with that. You can get someone to help you in Trade League to do the encounters, but if that's what you want to... Yeah, I agree. You shouldn't have to get someone to help you in Trade, and obviously in SSF that's not an option at all. It's up to debate if it's a good thing that you can now do bosses with a different character or not, but from what I've gathered from the Manifesto thread and on streams is that people like this change. So do I. I agree. As someone who's played 4 characters this league, and have had very different delves on this, that, and the other, I haven't had any of the big bosses yet, because it's only on my occultist where I've been pushing, like, delve depth, which I think I'm just below 270 on it. I've been doing it quite casually. Yeah, it'd be really frustrating to then... on my occultist who could do the boss to then get the boss on my trickster, for example, which isn't suited for it. So yeah, no, I agree with that. That is very frustrating. So that is one benefit. So you can have one character pushing the delve, so you can have another more boss-centric character which can then do it. So that I agree, that's an improvement. The new solution has 2 good things on it. You don't have to spend an immense amount of time farming sulfite to get back to the depths you're already doing. Agreed. And now you can complete hard encounters such as bosses with a stronger specialized character if other characters can't do it. I agree. So it's like how PB already is. You can have a fast slapping character and a boss killer. See, this is like I agree with, but I'm not sure if it's something that I actually like. That was one of the things I kind of liked about Delve, is that it rewards people. So some people disagree with this, but like it rewards people who pre-plan. So, for example, you know, if you're saying playing like a summoner, you can build the same character to be like more map focused, and then you can like change your specters to be more boss focused. So there will be some people who specifically planned around Delve that it's like, I'm going to make an all-rounder. It won't be the best mapper, it won't be the best bosser, but I can like change up my gear in such a way that it can do everything. Thank you for the sub. But because of this change, those guys who went for that specialization thing kind of get screwed over, because now you go back to the extreme of super fast mapper, super overpowered bosser. So that's kind of a shame. And I do think it's cool in games where like you're rewarded in general for having like a very specific, like jack of all trades, master of none, or specific master but is bad at other things. If you die, it'll be extremely easy and fast to get back on the ladder competition in hardcore, especially Trade League. I'm not playing hardcore Trade League or even hardcore at all this time around. So I can't speak from first-hand experience, but that just goes obviously without saying. You know, if, for example, you have someone like Dan, and Dan pushes up to a certain difficulty, he then dies. He's lost the gear, but that's it. He hasn't lost any of the depth. So it makes the whole competitive scene in hardcore basically softcore. It's weird. It's really weird how it fucks with the competitive ladder. And whether or not you care about the competitive ladder, you have to admit it does fuck with that. Since you get instant access to the same depth you already were at, you can argue that it's not an issue, as you still need to get a new character to be able to complete further depths to progress regardless. But as of now, with this change, it'll be way too fast to get back up or down. I agree. Death in hardcore has been and is now, and hopefully will stay to be a big hit to your progress. Think race to 100, for example. But this change makes it more like a stun instead of a full knockback. I agree. While Apostles should be adding a streak penalty before you can gain new depth on the ladder with a new character, feels it's not enough. The time investment to delve to your original depth should be penalty 2. Another thing which is kind of interesting to think about, so there's been all of this like outcry about solo ladder and people wanting a solo ladder in Trade League and whatever. This change further promotes grouping and people who play in groups, because if you think about it, right, and again, this is both a good and a bad thing, but if you think about it, like if you are someone who plays mostly by himself, but you know you've got your fully maxed out character and you die, you can have your leftover currency to get yourself back up there. But if you compare that to like a 6-man team and one person 6-man team dies, well, who gives a fuck, because you can just pool your currency between the remaining members and instantly get the guy back up. So if you can just instantly get the guy back up, then it's a very much the rich get richer system, and the rich get richer is something which has always been in PoE and is usually something people complain about a lot. So yeah, when there's no real penalty other than like currency, because currency is really the only penalty here, like losing that gear, it just means people with a shit ton currency won't even feel it. Yeah. Catch-up system is definitely needed, no doubt about that, but there are different ways to achieve that, and the issue with bosses without giving an instant access to the same depth you're already at. You could somewhat argue this hurts even softcore ladder, but it's definitely a big thing for hardcore. So how could it be done? There are a few ways, probably more, that aren't listed here. 1. Instead of shared mines, allow Nico to mine shaft up to 80%, arbitrary number, yeah, no, I agree, of your current lowest depth completed in that league after you complete Act 10 Katava. Or maybe even straight up from the beginning. This way you have access deep enough that you don't feel absolutely destroyed that you have to spend days farming Sulfite to get to the same difficulty. I agree. So, for example, you know, the whole thing of, as I said at the start, you know, if you've unlocked depth 500, you could then start at 300. Because, like, most people... Because there's a very big... This is the issue with Delve, is you have people talking from their point of view at, like, Delve 100. You have people talking from their point of view from Delve 1000. And, for example, if you're, like, Grim, and you've pushed, like, Delve 700, 800, whatever, the idea of doing that all over again on another character is, like, no. I can understand 100% the idea of I am locked into only playing this character, so I'm stuck only playing Ranger build for the rest of the league. I can just respec this character, I'm stuck. 100% I can see that's a problem. But, you know, if you can be like, well, I've unlocked up to depth 800... So if I was to make a witch now, for example, I could pay like a raw Azurite cost, maybe like you pay Nico, or don't have it behind a paywall, and I can start again from difficulty 400, 500. I think that's the solution. I think having that 100% balance is kind of dead. The reason why I don't like having that 100%, like, you've unlocked it once you have it everywhere, a big part of this league was about character progression. And, like it or not, having to re-grind out your mine gives progression to that individual character. So if you can cut out all of the boring stuff, like the early delves, and you still have the difficult delves, you still have that, like, grind stuff, that progression to get through. And ARPGs are about grinding. Like, you can't get rid of all grind for the sake of convenience. So if you get rid of all grind for the sake of convenience, then you kill the game. Like, there has to be some grind. It's about finding the right amount of grind. And also another thing to consider, like, the idea, so a lot of people saying, well, it doesn't matter because you can just have one delve and you just go, like, sideways, left and right. The fact that this means that you're going to have, like, more characters on one massive super delve, it means that the current delve UI is even more of a problem. Like, the delve UI needs to be improved regardless. Like, here, it's a new character, it's not that deep, right? It's just, like, quite manageable. If every new character you made, you've got to, like, search around, like, between delve, like, 5,000 and everything, like, it's horrible. This is something they need to fix eventually, but this is even more important fix when you suddenly have every single character on these massive charts. And yeah, it's something they need to get rid of, get around to eventually, but it's even a bigger deal now. Yeah, okay. Issue 2 can be solved by making the mines instants, just like your hideout, maps, and everything else. Okay. If you want to make a character to kill a hard boss, you can load up mine encampment instance with the character that has it. Then just log onto the boss killer and proceed to the already loaded mines. This also means that you now have a new mine, which helps with the massive loading issue the more delves you unveil, especially if you found sideways a lot before. Probably worth adding a penalty to your solo streak if you complete an encounter in a different mine. It's not an elegant solution, but it's a solution. I think that is too, like, counterintuitive for them to do that, but it kind of works. Instead of immediate shared mines, your new character gets to start at 80%, average number again, progress when reaching the old depth. You can choose to load the old mines you had, or you can ignore it and keep the new mines. Solves both issues. You can fight potential fail bosses again if you decide to load up the old mine, or keep delving with the new mines. That's interesting. Instead of immediate access, allow Nika to measure up all the way down to the exact death cost of Azerite. I think I like the idea of it having a cost attached. I think I either like it where it's either has, like, a cost attached to it, or you have it where it's kind of like you just get a new mine which has a percentage of the completion of the previous. Because, yeah, if you just have one massive mine that you're doing everything on, you'll end up with crazy load screens, as people in chat are saying right now. Like, the load screens, the more you unlock, the harder it is to navigate from, like, just a raw visual point of view, just, like, looking at it. Like, to give you an example, if I go on my occultist hasn't even done that much, right? This is, like, mid-200s. And I already find it difficult to, like, find exactly what I want to do on it. Like, if the other day I was trying to find all the little side things, just navigating this is, like, a bit of a fucking pain in the ass. So, having an account-wide, like, 500 thing everywhere and trying to, like, find the specific point and, like... Because also that's the thing, like, when you make your second character isn't going to instantly be ready to do delve 400 or 300, right? So you'll have to be like, oh, my character's going to need, like, delve 200 to start. So then you're like, okay, so where is delve 200? So then you got to, like, find it. And dragging isn't always intuitive, so you're like... as I'm sort of struggling here. Fuck's sake. Okay, I'm here now. This is like 195. Okay, this is kind of the right bit. Go this way, and then log on to a different character. Shit, it's all right. Like, this already needs fixing. It'll just need fixing even sooner. Like, this is something that people are starting to complain about now. You'll be complaining about it a whole lot more once you have this on every fucking character. Yeah. Adding this to the instant mine, you'd again solve both issues this way. You could hold onto Azerite in case you die in hardcore, or add a sync for the late game. I'm also... I don't know why we don't have the... I feel like having, like, more... Because this is nothing. So because we now have the Azerite... Because Azerite cost... because Azerite upgrades are account bound now, you have this thing where on new characters, you can sometimes struggle to have things to spend it on. So, like, if you're someone who's played a lot, like Grim's saying right now in chat, he's got like 30k Azerite left over. If you're someone who plays a lot, you've got all this Azerite you can't spend. So if you made the Azerite completely account-wide, which it currently is, you can then have this thing that on your second character, you dump some of your Azerite to unlock the checkpoint or the chapter on your next character. So that way, it not only introduces a sync, but it also gives an option for people who want to go on to the next one. And the other thing you need to consider is the people who need this system the most are the people who've been like try-harding, pushing super deep depths. If you've only been casually going like depth 200, 300 like I have, then it's not that big of a deal to get back to that point on your next character. This is only like a really big deal if you're pushing like past depth 300. At that point, you've got your leftover Azerite. You now have something to spend on. I think I like that. I think I like that solution the most. But yeah. Hopefully I didn't forget anything important. This is also a clean-up discussion we had with Uber Streaming. I'll post a link to that later. Right, let's see what Reddit has to say about this. But yeah, I think I like that solution the most, personally. It's probably fine. New characters will need to invest time into gearing and leveling to complete depths where the previous character died. Meanwhile, the people who don't die can make way more progress at the same time. I guess when you reach a depth where it truly becomes hard, throwing a new character that isn't such a viable strategy anymore. All in all, we just need to see how it plays out. Personally, like the shared mind idea. See, this is another thing as well. The whole idea of we can just do it and see how it plays out. It's very hard to take something away from players. So it's like, if GGG does this and it turns out that actually this doesn't play out very well, they can't really take it away. Like, you can't go this extreme and just see how it plays out. Like, that's why I said at the very start of this, it's like you have to try small things. So, like, let's say they tried the checkpoint system. Like, once you've unlocked depth 400, your next round starts at depth 200. You could try that for a week or two, and if that wasn't enough, you could then get rid of checkpoints and then make it account bound. Like, it's way better to try, like, an in-between fix first, and then if that isn't enough, to then fully commit. Because, like, this, like, if they did, let's say they did the in-between change, right? Let's say they tried the halfway change. That way, everyone on Reddit is like, yay, GG is listening to us, fuck yeah, pog, let's go. And then if it isn't enough, they make the full change, everyone's like, yes, they're listening to feedback. They tried something, didn't quite work, they tried it again, perfect, let's go. Whereas if they try the full thing, they can't take it away. Because the second you take it away, it's like, no. No, you can't take it away. Taking stuff away from players just causes fucking outrage. You just give them, like, little by little. But anyway. If the shared portion of the mine was limited to X amount of progress, I'm down. Like, character A completed depth 500, I want to progress on camera to get B, I have to complete depth 460 instead of straight off 500. Kind of that. Can't take a piece of cookie you already just gave them. Exactly. If at any point we have to weigh actual gameplay against the ladder, fuck the ladder. It doesn't matter to the vast majority of players and doesn't impact the game itself. Yikes. I mean, let's just remove the ladder while we're at it. Or let's not fix ladder bugs like we had earlier where group ladder was showing a solo ladder. Oh, right. Okay, so that's a very good point. So this guy's like, well, screw the ladder, that doesn't matter. Well, the ladder does really fucking matter, apparently, because if any of you guys remember the last Bayclast, we had a lot of people who don't play competitively, screaming for people to get banned. Like, the amount of people who's like, we must ban MP because he's playing the game, and it happens that GGG had a bug. Like, if anyone's still confused about that, the solo and group ladder worked for the first few days of the league. They made a hotfix, which then meant that group progress was counting as solo progress. By just playing in a group, you were fucking the solo ladder. It wasn't anything being done intentionally. It was just some random, like, random thing which happened on GGG's end. People were calling for people playing groups to get banned. Like, people just, like, ban them. They're destroying ladder. So people do clearly care about ladder, not just the competitive, like, actual competitive players. People who aren't competitive also care. So this... The notion of just, well, screw the ladder, I was like, but anyway. Racing competition between players has been a part of the game since the beginning, and it's part of human nature. Agreed. Do you think the change to those actually hurt the average gameplay? If so, can you explain? Agnog, yikes. I have a love-hate relationship in the fact that this guy's a massive prick, but anyway. The ladder is really just a legacy feature at this point, and it shows that GGG does not cater to it all that much. The fact that the ladder filter only shows base class after all this time shows how much they care, really. While there is still competition in people at the highest level, unfortunately that is where all of it is. Below the top 100, 200, nobody cares, and they have no incentive to care either. Well, that's a fair enough point, to be fair. If they improve the ladder, and we spoke about this again on Bakecast, if they made the ladder so much better and you could easily look up your friends, then suddenly it gives reason to care about the ladder position. Because again, think about it like you have a few friends you play casually with. If you've got a better rank than them, you don't have to be like the greatest like competitive player in the world. If you just have a slightly better rank than your friend, for a lot of people that makes them feel good. And that causes their friends to have a fun little rivalry and then compete against each other. Right? Like, you can compete with friends or people at a similar level, you know, down here. Like, you know, it's like people who play amateur football, right? They know they're not the best football players in the world, but they still enjoy it and they have friends who enjoy that same thing. Like, having some aspect of competitive nature in video games is good. Like, it's good to have that in games. This is just salt. The ladder is something a ton of people care about. Agreed. Even if only from a spectator standpoint, have you seen what Global Shot looks like when the Snap group hits milestones in the mines? Yeah, that's fair enough. This falls in the category I outlined of only the top 100 placements being relevant. I should clarify that what people don't care about is being in the ladder. Honestly, the Raceless League was basically two parties compete with each other, and you don't need a whole ladder to keep track of that sort of thing. Well, if the ladder was better so that you could easily look at people's friends, or people at similar gear point as you, or whatever, then it would be more important. Like, if you could be like, lol, Mathel's rank this, but I'm a higher rank than Mathel, like, you would have a lot of people in this chat who would, like, they would get a buzz out of being a higher rank or a higher whatever than the streamer they watch, you know? So, whatever. How soul-crushing re-rolling is currently killing a league for many people. I'm really... this is my biggest thing, and this is what I said previously. There are two kinds of things that you're trying to address. There are two kinds of players, in my opinion. So, player one is the guy who, like, once I've unlocked something... the idea of having to re-grind it is so mortifying, I will never play another build. That's a problem. If you have a large portion of your player base who feel trapped into only ever having one character, that's obviously a massive, massive problem that needs to be fixed, if that's actually true. Problem two is if you have someone who plays 4 to 5 builds every single league, but they quit their builds at like the same point, like they quit their build at like level 90, 91, 92, that's it, they're done. Then your main problem with these guys is how do we keep these guys to play for longer? I've always said that what we need to do with Path of Exile is try and stretch out the player feedback loop to be as long and as enjoyable as possible. If you can cut out a lot of the boring parts of early Delve, but keep the interesting, like, individual character progression part, so for example going from Delve 200 to 400 or 400 to 600, by keeping that bit in, it adds a bit of lifetime to each character. Because once you've unlocked depth 400, we'll keep it on baby builds, once you've unlocked Delve 400 on one build, if you just have it on your next character, you don't have that same sense of I started here, I slowly worked my way up. When you cut down playtime, that's exactly it. You cut down the playtime. If suddenly, like, you could play every build to 90 in half the time, I don't think we would see twice as many characters being made. I think we'd see maybe an extra 1 or 2 characters being made, but I think the general, like, playtime of the league would go down. And that's something which people need to look at, is, like, what is the bigger issue? Is the bigger issue... this guy or this guy? Can we find a middle ground between the two? And if you can, that's the perfect fix. And that's why it's important to try small changes. And then if it's not enough, then do the big change rather than just committing to only doing big change. But anyway. It makes zero sense that devs aren't shared account-wide like the Atlas or Lab Trials are. I really hate the comparison to Atlas and Lab Trials. So, one, people keep comparing things to Lab. Most people hate Lab. Like, people don't like Lab as a system. Like, Lab is, like, one of the most controversial systems in Path of Exile people hate. So to be like, hey, you know that system that most of us really dislike? Yeah, well, this should follow what this works. And then comparing it to Atlas, the Atlas system isn't perfect. The Atlas system is far from flawed. Far from perfect. It's very flawed, sorry. I would love to have more ways to set up Atlas, having more Atlas pages so I can have more character-specific Atlases, right? And if you make everything account-wide, then everything is exactly account-wide, and you have no sense of personal character progression. And the biggest point that GG tried to address with the Delve, and they said this in their like mission statement for the league, is they wanted to add retention because they've been struggling with retention. So it's like, we're struggling with retention, we want to add more personal character progression to each build. I know, let's fuck that out the window and just go pure account bound, killing the progression. Fuck. And also, Karv says in chat, Atlas has no ladder. I don't think you compare them. Yeah, they're fundamentally different systems. And again, you could throw this back and say, well, Pantheon is character bound, and Pantheon is newer than Lab, so therefore Lab should be character bound because they prefer that system for Pantheon, and Pantheon is newer, so whatever. The Delve scale infinitely. It's supposed to test the limits of a character, not the player's ability to grind. I agree. You should kill the boring bit of the grind, like the early, like 100 to 200, but keep the interesting bit. Again, you have to have some grind in PoE. This could be fixed through a few different ways. This isn't a perfect solution, but for example, imagine if your next character you made instantly had 50k Sulfite on it, and that would mean that you could very quickly push straight down to Delve 600. Obviously, that's not perfect, right? But if everyone could very quickly grind down to that point, that could be a thing. What might be more of an issue, actually, is the fact that it's actually very difficult to delve straight down. What often happens is you, like, delve down 5, then you go across 4, then you go down a bit, then you go left a bit. And so you could make the alt problem a lot easier by, like, once you reach delve 500, on your next character, you can delve straight down to 500. That could maybe be a very easy fix, right? Because currently, you know, you have to go left, right, dead end, fuck, dead end, left 20, down 5. Like, if they had it like once you've unlocked it, you could then just go straight fucking down. That'd be really interesting. Maybe that is a solution which people haven't considered. I don't know. The overwhelming majority of people who play PoE do not compete on the ladder. And do not play 18 hours a day for a week straight. If the Delve is intended to be a grind for the top 1%, again, I said earlier how ladder doesn't have to be just about the 1%. You want to make the ladder appeal to everyone, not just that one guy. Challenging content is completely inaccessible for 98% of the player base. The ladder is an addition to the game. Also, on this point, if this is only an issue for the 1% of ladder because they're at the super deep delves, then it doesn't matter for the just casual dude, because the casual dude is just chilling at delve 100 or 200. Also, 1%, 98% thinky emoji. We've lost some numbers here. That's some premium Tarke math. Anyway, the ladder is an addition to the game, a way of tracking player progress through it. GGG makes the game. Players compete on the ladder if they choose. Balancing around the ladder is a silly thing to do unless it doesn't impact non-ladder competitive players in a way. I kind of wonder if Karv's thread would have gone down differently with a different title. I think the actual mentioning of a ladder in the first place, it kind of like puts people on the defensive. It's like, you can talk about Path of Exile and people agree with you, but then if you add the word softcore and hardcore every now and again into that thing, that will completely change people's point of view, because you'll feel like you're there being attacked, or one playstyle is being favored, or whatever. But anyway, how is your solution of having a mineshaft go 8% of the way down and allowing people to switch characters mid-instance for every different encounter any different except forcing a bit of additional grind? You have to have some grind. Again, it adds a sense of character progression. We covered that. And also it would make load screens less of an issue than just having one delve. How do you reconcile... Oh, fuck off. There are a few words which trigger me. If you say indeed in your post, I think you're a nonce. And reconcile... I think it's good to have a good vocabulary, but there are just some words, the second you hear them in like a Reddit post or a forum post, you're like, dude, go away. That's one of them. Anyway. How do you reconcile allowing rejoining instances with softcore, where everyone suddenly has infinite attempts each delve? All this so that a couple hundred people with self-imposed challenges have to spend a few hours grinding that last 20%, which they would have to do anyways to get to that level 92, for example, where their character is strong enough to do delves at that level before they're right where they were anyway. I don't get it. I'm not sure if I agree with that. I love ladders as much as the next guy. But the point of ladders is the top people playing the game. No, I can fundamentally disagree. I keep saying the most important part is, it's like, for example, going back to something I said on Bay Class. You know, you can be rank bronze, but if your friend is rank silver, then it gives you a, like, dude, I could hit that one day. Like, ladders don't have to be about the best fucking people in the world. You want everyone to care about ladder. Because you'll have people who hate playing Dota 2 or League of Legends or whatever. They hate playing the game. They're so bored of the game. But they're like, I need to get to silver or I need to get to masters before I can quit. Because I need to prove to myself that I'm good enough. It's so important to have, like, elo resets and ladder resets in games like that. Like, you need that shit in there. Fuck. We need that. Not morphing the main game and neutering league-wide progress to the rest of the player base for the sake of the ladder. GGG's design standpoint for Delve at this point is very clear. You want to grind map to 100. You want to be Delve 1, have the strongest character and highest skill. Well, I feel like GGG's design standpoint is actually very unclear. Because GGG's design standpoint was what they designed at the start of this league, which was everything was character-bound, nothing was account-bound, and they've gone completely against their design standpoint by making the upgrades account-bound, the mines account-bound. Like, if anything, GG's design standpoint is warped as fuck. Like, I don't know, maybe in the office this was like a 51 to a 49% like thing, and no one could decide entirely like one way or another. But yeah. Anyway. This thread is not about SSF. The penalties on dying on SSF are too big for this to matter much. Gearing is very different in SSF in comparison to trade, obviously. The point of view is for players who want to be able to play solo. Think of the bossing, but not from an SF league. Yeah, I agree. You know, you might be just playing in trade league, as many people do, and they might have like their RF boss character, and then they have their like KB Deadeye, for example. Yeah. You already have infinite amount of attempts at bosses in softcore. Don't understand how this would change things. Yeah, that's 100% true. The instance system is not so you have infinite amounts of attempts at no cost. You still have to use sulfur every time you fail the attempt. I guess I could have worded it better. Yeah, sorry enough. Getting to 80% or 90% or the numbers, I agree, should be more than enough. I get that after you get the whole cookie, it hurts 6 or something. Yeah, no, I still agree with that. Like, if I get to Delve 400 and my next character starts at Delve 300, then I don't give a fuck, because you still have some... Oh, that's another thing as well. Like, if the idea of regrinding from Delve 300 to 400 is so horrible because it's such boring content, then that means that the actual, like, Delve system is flawed. Because it means either one of two things, right? Either getting from 300 to 400 is very challenging. And if it's challenging content, it's probably fun content, right? Or it's very tedious because you keep hitting dead ends. As I mentioned earlier, you could maybe fix the dead end problem, which means the dead ends are a problem. Or it's super tedious and there's, like, no scaling whatsoever, in which case the monsters aren't hard enough. And maybe if the monsters were a lot harder... then you could cut the delves in half. So what I mean by that is, like, if the scaling isn't strict enough, so players are hitting delve 2000, then you could make the scaling stricter going forward, so the equivalent of delve 2000 is actually delve 1000. That would then make you need half as much sulfite to reach the same point. Because the numbers are fundamentally meaningless. Like, the numbers are just, like, what just plucked out of the air, you know. That might be like a long-term change, like for like going to patch 3.5, 3.6, 3.8, whatever. But yeah, maybe the progression isn't steep enough. Maybe it needs a steeper progression, meaning you reach the same point in difficulty in less sulfite grinded or grounded or whatever. What's the past tense of grind? I ground this map? I grinded it? I don't know. They have multiple times in the past catered to ladder just for the sake of retention. Look at all the XP nerfs. This isn't catering. And obviously retention was the mission statement of this league. I never said it was. I play solo and trade league too. This is from my perspective. You also should create the instance with one character. I don't like this. I think the whole instance thing is shit. I agree with this guy attacking the instance thing. I think the instance thing is iffy. But anyway. You also should just create the instance with one character. Leave it. Rejoin it with the second. How do you allow that but disallow the first rejoin the same instance if they die? I think the multiple instance thing, yeah, I don't think it's very elegant. I said that at the start. I feel like that's meh. I fully agree with you on this concept, and from the looks of the past few leagues, so does GGG. For the purpose of discussion, though, ignore it. I still don't understand why requiring a couple of hours of grinding per character to get back to challenging content is a good thing. But Delve 300 or 400 in this case should be challenging. Because you're just cutting out the non-challenging bit. I don't know. Let alone being worth preventing people from making league-wide progress on this infinite resource. 4. XP. I don't know why we talk about XP. XP nerfs were not catered to the ladder. They were about the 100 push in general, as GG believed it was becoming too easy for players in general to attain. I feel like I'm not even going to read this. If Karv mentions XP, I'm just going to skip it, because we shouldn't be talking about fucking XP right now. I'm going to skip this, because I feel like these guys have just like got themselves stuck in a cycle. Does anything interesting happen here? I don't know how exactly it would be done. No, I feel like that thread is dead. I feel like I'm skipping that thread. I feel like that thread is like they've exhausted themselves. Let's see what a new viewpoint is. When you still need to mine 10 more levels on your new character before it shows up on the ladder. Again, I feel like ignore the ladder. I feel like talk about ladder was the wrong thing completely. I feel like you need to talk about it purely from a character progression point of view, long-term playability, and if it will affect it. Like at the end of the day, it's like, will it make people play for longer or play for less? That is the most important thing. Fuck thinking about ladder. If we can save ladder, good. The most important thing is, will we have people play for longer or play for less? And that's the key fundamental thing. If I'm a game designer and I can make a 10 out of 10 game, which will keep people playing for 8 hours, and that's it, it's only 8 hours every 3 months, or I can make a 9 out of 10 game, I have that guy playing for 30 hours, I'm picking the slightly worse, but they're playing for 3 times as long. That's just me, but anyway. If you draw a parallel with Atlas, please don't. You don't lose Atlas completion on death. Fuck Atlas. It doesn't seem too unreasonable, or is the issue that XP you can get from certain delve steps? Again, ignoring the ladder side of things. Just because you have one system doesn't mean that every system needs to work fundamentally the same. Having some systems work slightly differently is nice because it gives, like, variety. I like having variety. Variety is good. Is completion all the same? First to kill Shaper, Uber Elder is a big deal. So what about day 2 of the league? If you dine in on the race, Uber also, if you... Anyways, let's talk about stuff. I feel like talking about the Atlas is or whatever. And again, like if your record depth is 500, going from 300 or 400 is still challenging. You still have that challenge right there. I would argue the ladder. I feel like mentioning ladder at all completely threw off this entire post. So I feel like that was a big mistake on Karv's part. 99. Yes, again, just the mere mention of the word ladder. It's like mentioning hardcore or softcore. It's just a trigger word for some people. I play on hardcore, and I think the changes might make leveling new characters too easy by delving, maybe break a bit of the economy, since it's too easy to access eye level 80 drives. That's another thing as well, right? Like the access to eye level 83 items is a very big deal as well. Yeah. But the issue is the ladder. Again, I think that this whole thing is bigger than just the ladder. I feel like the ladder is part of the issue, but I feel like this is far bigger than that. Far, far bigger than that. Far, far bigger than that. And again, by having like the 80% unlock or the 90% unlock or whatever, it makes it very similar to Atlas. It'd be like if you've completed tier 16 maps on your first character, it means your second character starts at tier 14. I think that's fine. I think that's fine. You know? If they had a system where it's like, yo, homie, you've unlocked Shaper on one character. Let's say you had 156 completion on your Atlas, and you have Shaper on the first character. On your second character, you start with Atlas completion 140. You've just got to redo Guardians. I don't give a fuck redoing Guardians. I don't know. But anyway, whatever. Likely reaching monster level 83 maps, 82 more sustainably, would be just as easy for the player, easily able to reach level 83 delves. You need to remember that maps are like a currency. Like you can't just make maps in Quarry. You can't just make tier 16 maps in tier. Well, I guess you can with Zana 8 now. Zana 8 also fucks this whole Atlas discussion thing. That needs to be talked about a little bit, but because that's something that you need to consider about quite a lot with Delve, is the fact that you have infinite access to this insane content, right? Yeah, the Zana 8 mod is problematic because yeah, the fact you can turn tier 1 maps into tier 16, that's an issue, but whatever. That's for a different video. I'll get someone who knows a bit more about the system to talk about it than I do. Okay. I feel like even this is fucked. Because I feel like you just can't compare it to Atlas. Okay. I think your issue 2 is a good thing. I didn't see that as bad at all. I think the character building needs more to come. Yeah, I want more progression on the character. This also goes back to the whole like gear thing. Nin made a very good post a while ago, which I very fundamentally agreed with. I think it's an issue that at level 72, say 80, because 80 get like opals, whatever, but like for most items at 72, if you're in Trade League, you buy everything, and you can equip everything at 72. The thing which I really liked about Delve is it's like, you don't just like finish your build at 72 and you equip all the overpowered gear, right? It's like you have to grind through some extra shit, you stay on the characters for longer. Yeah, yikes. How about making ladder account-based, not character? Stop talking about ladder! I think I communicated the issue well. Tarke's just swing a bit off with adding to it. I fundamentally agree with where Karv is coming from in this thread. I just feel like it's worded in a way which... It's like, it's antagonizing. I think it's worded, just like, the fact you just mentioned the word fucking ladder and hardcore is very antagonizing. So getting people like, fuck hardcore, fuck ladder, fuck the 1%, fuck everyone. And it's like, it's no longer about what's best for the game. It's just about, I'm right, you're wrong, I'm right, I'm wrong. And I'm not interested in reading like 50 replies on 2 people who will never change their point of view. So that's why I'm like skimming, then like skipping, then skimming, then skipping. I think the much bigger issue is like the long-term retention of Delve. That's the core thing I care about. And if you can save ladder, or not save, that's a bit over dramatic, but like if you can improve things for ladder while improving things for the people who want easy rerolls or whatever, that like find the middle ground. So I said at the very beginning, you want to find the middle ground between the 2 different players, right? Small change. If the change is enough, then go more in the other direction. Yeah. If you die, it'll be extremely easy and fast to get back in the ladder competition in hardcore, especially Trade League. How is that an issue again, though? You even explain that yourself. You still need to level character, gear up, etc. Harsh penalty of death in hardcore is still there. It is for the average guy, like it is for like you and me, but if you play 20 hours a day, it doesn't fucking matter. Because if you play 20 hours a day every day and you have all the currency, then it just further promotes the rich get richer, which is, I think the rich get richer is fine, but that's the one thing that everyone fucking complains about. And that's what I find so fucking funny. It's like, everyone's like, I hate how this game is balanced around Ziz. I hate how I can't do anything while Cute Dog has RMT'd his 57th headhunt to this league. Ah! And then it's like, oh, should we make a change which, like, rewards them or doesn't reward them? Like, it's this, like, the current system is really punishing to someone like Ziz or someone like Cute Dog. Because they, like, the current system is, right? Making it completely account-bound makes their shit even better. Because then you just rush through Delve once on your first character, then you just reroll on to the next thing. Who gives a fuck? Having to have some kind of grind is sick. I like having grind. But the fact I've said grind, so people are like, but Tarke, games aren't about grind. Like, it's... Just like the linguistics alone completely, like, destroy any kind of, like, constructive criticism. Fuck. You're trying to introduce unnecessary grind. Why is it unnecessary, though? Like, is nothing enjoyable about Path of X? Like, that's the other thing as well, right? Like, if grinding from 400 to 500 isn't fun, then the issue is Delve. Right? Like, if we've unlocked 500, right? If, let's say Tarke's unlocked 500, I make a new character who starts at 400. If going from 400 to 500 isn't fun, that means there's a core fundamental issue with Delve. That means that Delve is shit, right? If that is fun, it doesn't matter. that I have to go from 400 to 500 again, because it's an enjoyable experience. Going from 100 to 500, I agree. Going from that could be like, oh god, that's going to be so fucking tedious. But if it's always within 100, or even if it's always between 50, like if I started at 450 on my next character instead of 500, it just gives that little bit, and it also, like, it makes characters have more of a sense of, like, attachment. So a really good example, an amazing example, right? So I was playing an occultist, right? I was playing an occultist, I got to 92, and I said that if they put the B SRS MTX on sale, I would respec this character into a Necro, and I'd play SRS. They did it, so now I'm doing that. Now, I actually realized I didn't have the regrets available to me in SSF to do a full respec, so I'm leveling a new character, right? Now, with everything being completely account-bound, there's no punishment to me just leveling a new character. I have all the gear ready in my stash. The only time I'm losing is the 1 day it takes me to get that next character to maps. Like, I'm losing 1, maybe 2 days. That's the only, like, loss, right? The fact of having to re-grind a bit of, like, the delve, it gives me a reason to be like, oh, maybe this witch is more valuable to me than just a couple of respecs, right? Again, it's not about being punished for making a new character. It's about having a sense of attachment to the character, right? It's like you are attached to what you achieved and what you unlocked on that character. You know, it's about, like, the whole reason of, like, MMOs. You can be that guy who has every single class on every single server, and then you have that guy who's like, I have a sense of attachment because I did this, I unlocked it, I did it on my warrior. Fuck yes. I will always remember that warrior because that's the warrior that I got the insane title on, or whatever, right? Like, I like having a reason to feel attached to my characters. Like, characters feel so disposable. Like, the characters are already disposable because it's 10th league, you throw it away at the end of the league, you start a new one, right? Having some sense of, like, well, this character's got this sick mine on it is something, you know? I like having a sense of attachment to the things that I do. And I feel like by making everything account-bound, it's very nice quality of life, but then you kind of fuck with the sense of character attachment. And the other thing is, if everything is account-bound, because everything before it was account-bound, that means that GGG can never add character progression to Path of Exile. Like, let that sink in from a design point of view. If from a design point of view, every single time you make character stuff, people bitch so much you have to make it account-bound, that means you can never make character-specific grinds. And then that's bad from a design point of view, because it then limits future design. And then if you say, but no, there can be, well, if there can be, then why can't Delve be that? Imagine if Masters were character-specific, but no one's saying that Masters should be character-specific. Like, saying it would be nice if Delve was character-specific, but once I've unlocked Depth 500, my next character starts at 400 or 450, right? That's not the same as, oh, well then all your Masters go back to level 1. Fuck you. You know. It's whatever. But anyway. For softcore 2, just because being hardcore SSF, by the way, kind of player, I want Death to be more punishing when it comes to Delve as well, like gearing up. And it hasn't got anything to do with hardcore SSF, by the way. It's a big thing in SF to die. If you're a prominent player in trade, you can get your character in really fast. So all it really does is add a time sink for rich hardcore players who can play B2B top of the ladder, and it hurts everyone else. That's all the benefit of being a prominent player. Maybe another thing which is worth talking about, maybe there should even be a different Delve between hardcore and softcore. Maybe that's a system as well. Maybe hardcore Delve should work differently to softcore Delve. It won't happen, but maybe that's something to consider. Like, there are so many in between. There are so many in between things. Actually, that's kind of interesting. Yeah, that's actually interesting. What if there was, like, a more extreme thing? I still think the best thing I've said, and is the system they should do, is that once you've unlocked, like, Delve 500, on your first character, your second character can go straight fucking down, no dead ends. PogChamp. I think the dead end thing is scuffed. I think the dead end thing is like whatever. Delve Prestige? You could call it Prestige, you could call it whatever. I don't like the idea of having only one delve. I don't like the idea of only having one delve because, as I said, it makes the UI worse. It makes the UI harder to navigate. I would rather have... if it is going completely account-bound, I would rather every new character starts with a new delve going straight down to what I've previously unlocked than having just one master fucking chart. I guess the advantage of having it, like... I guess the problem with it going completely account-bound is it means that maybe you'd, like, spam reroll characters to, like, find bosses. That's... I guess they could have it so, like, they don't, like, sport... I don't fucking know, but, like... I don't think it should go all... I feel like we should try a middle. I feel like we should try a middle ground before we go full one way. Is the only big issue? Okay, the big issues for me: lag on the map, harder to navigate, and it's already hard to navigate. Loss of character progression, faster feedback loop, less time people play in the league, faster people burn out and quit. Now, what is the bigger issue? People burning out from excess grind, or people burning out because of lack of content? That's why I find you find a middle ground between the two. But anyway, let's keep on going. Delve is a developer nightmare. You break two things by changing one. I 100% agree with this guy. 100% agree. This is just a different kind of competition. Dying in hardcore will still be a big detriment if you're on the leaderboard. Again, like, this goes a lot further than ladder. And I feel like, anyway. Losing a character is a way bigger deal than the mind progress in your opinion. I mean, think about the cost of sulfite, the amount of time. Delve has to go core. I'm also saying that. Delve has to go core. Delve is too good of a system not to go core. Delve has to go core. It has to go core. Because it has to go core, that's why I'd rather did small, gradual changes and they find the perfect solution than rush it now. It has to go core. Like, Delve has so much fucking potential, and I don't want that potential to be squandered by knee-jerk reactions now. Like, the whole point of leagues originally, the whole point of leagues was to test mechanics for the core game. And that's where people need to think about their leagues. They need to think about, like, is this change good for PoE a year from now, or is it good for me right now? Like, that's the fucking thing. And that's why I want small change. Like, I don't give a fuck. I do not give a fuck if we try checkpoints and it turns out in a week checkpoints are shit and we go for full account bound. But try the fucking checkpoints first. The fact they changed the Azerite upgrade system after 3 days was fucking ridiculous in my opinion. I think that was fucking ridiculous. The fact they didn't even try and be like, once you've unlocked an upgrade, it's then cheaper on your next character. Or maybe we make the upgrades cheaper, you know, by a thing, like Necronets. Exact same thing with Necronets. It's like, fucking hell, man. Can't we just try something? Like, what's the worst case scenario? You try it and it wasn't good enough? I think, if anything, it would be better PR. For, like, if they care about, like, not upsetting the player base, I think it would be even better PR for the company. Because imagine it, right? Like, the community says, we don't like this system. We don't like this system. And they say, we're going to try and make it better. And they're like, oh, GGG is listening to us, yay. But then they're like, actually, you know what, it wasn't quite enough. And they say, it's okay, we've taken your feedback on board, and we're going even further this time. And it's like, yay, GGG listens to us, GGG is amazing. They listen to everything we say, Pog. You know? Just... And by doing, you can do small changes faster then a big change. Because, like, for example, going from character to account bound, that's a very big change, which has to be discussed quite intensely in office, right? So because of that, they kind of have to be like, let's give it a couple of days to really think about it, to really make sure we nail it right, 100%. Whereas with small changes, then it's like, I feel like we need to change it. Do you guys agree? Yeah, I agree, we need to change it. Okay, cool. We need to come up with a fix. Should we try just this quick thing first? Yeah, let's try this quick thing first. You can do more frequent. This is very much just like going for the easiest fix, so it requires the least amount of dev time, and because it requires the least amount of dev time, that means they have more time to work on the next league, because currently they don't want to be, like right now, they don't want to be tuning Delve. Right now they want to be tuning 3.5. Right? They don't want to be fucking tuning out, they want 3.5. So they just want the easiest, fastest fix, get the fix done, we can now go forward. But that's not healthy long term. So yeah. Alright, today let's go back in because we scrolled up and stuff. My suggestion has always been Azerite Outposts. You can buy them with Azerite replacement intervals. Yeah, like a lot of games do stuff like that, where it's like once you've unlocked it on the first character, you can then pay a certain cost to unlock it on the next. So yeah. Again, the idea that you unlock 500 on one character, so then you pay a flat Azerite fee to unlock 400 on your next, you know. And then when you get to 600, you can then unlock a flat fee to have 500 on your next. That way there's still a slight punishment to swap you on to the next one. Checkpoint system makes no sense. I agree. Past year I got obsessed with pushing the D3 ladder years ago. It was extremely unhealthy for me. When I see I was number 9 Pathfinder, the only one not playing Xerfes, I thought maybe I should push really hard, but ultimately don't want to. I'm over-competing with others. Okay. So I don't want to do anything but hit Delve 600 for endgame grind. Okay. How there needs to have a checkpoint-like system for place for alts. I'm not sure what this middle bit was going about, but yeah, fair enough. People have also been asking for ages for it to skip the story mode and power level quickly to maps, which is bad. If we can ever skip story mode, fuck me, that'd be awful. And I say that from someone who, at the time, was very happy when they made adventure mode. When they first made adventure mode in Diablo, I was like, finally, I don't have to do the campaign. PogChamp. It was a really bad thing looking back at it. It's important to have, like, having to level a character is important because it gives a sense of character value. Characters need to have value. If your characters have no value, what's the point of having characters? If they got to completely remove, if you're going to completely remove campaign and everything, then just remove the classes. Just have it you choose where you start on the passive skill tree. Like, fuck me, you need to have a value to, you know, the character, because that gets the person invested in the character. If you're invested in the character, you're less likely to throw the character away. If you're less likely to throw the character away, you're less likely to stop playing Path of Exile, because the less you care about your characters, the more likely you are to stop playing. Fuck. This won't do anything to stop people wealthy and pushing ladder. 3 instant access to cost, bought and paid for. Character rates. Back on the ladder in no time if you have a currency. Again, this stuff like talking about ladder is a bad thing. You're more likely to stop playing. We're going on to a completely different point here. But okay. Let's say that they got rid of campaign completely. This is completely tangential. Let's say they got rid of character completely and you could just start in maps from the beginning. Okay. That means you spend more times in maps. If you're spending more times in maps, you're going to hit your map burnout point faster. If you only did Delve, like if Path of Exile was just Delve, like Delve is the only thing in Path of Exile, you would get bored of Delve faster because you're spending more time in it. Right? Again, your Path of Exile experience might go from a 9 out of 10 to a 10 out of 10. Right? But you'll be playing it for less. And they don't want you to play the game for less. They want people to play the game for a long time. Because the longer you're playing the game, the more invested you are in the game. Right? You're just cutting the entrance time. Exactly what I'm saying. Exactly that. You're cutting off the playtime of each character. So if you're only taking if you're only taking 4 characters, right, a league, if the average dude plays 4 characters a league and that's it, they're done with PoE, and then you cut all the leveling, right, then you could cut a week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks off that person playing Path of Exile each league, which is a bad thing. You don't want to do that. You really don't want to do that. If you can make the bit which isn't fun, that's the solution, right? If the campaign is still boring, then the fix is to make the campaign fun again. Not to cut it completely, you know? It's like, if you guys, some of you probably have never had a relationship before, but you know, it's like, if you guys have ever been in a relationship, if you have one argument, you don't just say, all right, that's it, end of relationship. We can't be together anymore. We've had one argument. That's it. No, you try and work out your problems, and then if after eventually you can't fix it because there's just something core wrong there, then you go, okay, now we need to do a big significant change. And that's why, going back to the very beginning, small changes, small compromise, see if we can find a middle ground between the two kinds of playstyles, and if we can, perfect. And if we can't, we then do the big change. But yes, I think all these people attacking Karv, I think it's unfair not to take on his point of view. He makes a few very good points. I think a lot of it is coming from the sheer mention of hardcore and ladder. The second you say the 2 words hardcore and ladder, you like instantly put people on a weird one. I do think it's very important to think about these kind of things. And this decision has been made. We probably can't change it now. The decision is probably made. But I think it's important to think about Path of Exile, League of Legends, Dota 2, World of Warcraft, MapleStory, Ultra, whatever game it is you play. If it's a game that you play for years and years and years, not just once, I think it's important to think about stuff slower from a more long-term point of view than just the knee-jerk rush. This isn't a game you play once, right? This isn't some single-player RPG that you just burst through once. You can say, hey, there's just this one level. Can we fix this one level or cut this one level because it's shit? No. It's something we play all the fucking time, right? So this is something that we want to be good for as long as possible. Anyway, that is my very long rant. I'm Tarke. Karv gave me an hour of free content to upload on the YouTube. Congratulations to everyone who sat through all of that. Have a good day. Bye-bye.